In this stage, we will discuss the documents mostly used in foreign trade. It is obligatory to issue certain documents in the process of purchasing and selling goods in foreign trade. At the beginning, the importer and exporter come to an agreement among themselves and record the documents to be used in the foreign trade contract they have prepared. It is obligatory to issue these documents in order for the import and export processes to run smoothly. Mistakes to be made during the issuance of documents cause problems such as not being able to remove the goods from the export customs, not being able to carry out import transactions, and not paying the cost of the goods to the exporter. Documents are always a trump card in the hands of the exporter. Documents should not be sent to the buyer without receiving payment or guaranteeing that it will be received. Otherwise, an open shipment will be made. Many documents are regulated in international trade. These documents vary according to the product subject to trade and the country of trade. Documents used in foreign trade are generally commercial documents, transport documents, and other documents is divided into three. The first group is commercial documents. These are the invoices used during the purchase and sale of goods. In addition to commercial invoices, there are also invoices with different functions and features. Invoices used in foreign trade are pro forma invoice, commercial invoice, freight invoice, certified invoice, consular invoice, e-invoice. Let's talk about each type of invoice. A. Pro forma invoice. Pro forma invoice, which is among the documents used in export, is a document that is prepared by the seller before the sale and delivery of the goods to be sold, showing the type and quantity of the goods, the estimated unit price, the delivery and payment method, the amount of the goods, and in some cases, in the form of an offer with an option and bearing the pro forma invoice record on it. The price on the pro forma invoice is not the final selling price. The price may change. Therefore, the price on the pro forma invoice is more for a preliminary information purpose. A pro forma invoice is a proposal invoice, also called a pre-invoice. Pro forma invoice is especially used in foreign trade. It is also considered as an international sales contract. In addition, this invoice is also used for sending sample goods abroad. B. Commercial invoice. Original invoice is an account document issued on site by the seller on behalf of the buyer based on the pro forma invoice, order or sales contract in final sales, containing the type and quantity, quality, unit price, and sales price of the goods, and showing that the sale has been made. Original invoice is taken as a basis in customs transactions, foreign currency transfers, and commitments. The number of copies of the invoices can be increased or decreased in line with the agreement between the parties. The most important difference of these invoices from domestic invoices is that they do not include VAT. VAT is a tax due to the domestic tax legislation of a country. It is not possible to pay and transfer from country to country. While exporters pay VAT for the goods they buy in the domestic market, they do not include VAT in the invoice when exporting the goods. Regardless of the delivery method, the FOB value must be shown separately on an invoice. Otherwise, it creates the possibility of paying more import customs duty than the importers has to pay. In order to avoid problems at the customs of the importing country, each original invoice and its copy should be signed and checked separately. C. Freight invoice. If, under the contract of sale, the freight for the exported goods has to be paid by the seller, for example, in CFR and CIF sales, the freight paid entry must be written on the bill of lading transport document. In the absence of such a record on the bill of lading, the invoice issued by the carrier company or its agent indicating that the freight has been paid is called freight invoice. In this invoice, it is stated that the goods are received, loaded, and there is no freight debt for the transported goods. This invoice must be attached to the bill of lading transport document because this invoice is requested by the buyer's bank. D. Certified invoice. In other words, consular invoice. This invoice is the invoice that the exporter sends to the importer after issuing its original invoice and having it approved by the consulate of the country to be exported. Here, the exporter first issues his original invoice, then goes to the Chamber of Commerce and or industry to which he is affiliated and has the certificate of origin approved. He then submits to the original invoice and the certificate of origin to the consulate of the importing country and has the invoice approved by its consulate. This invoice is called certified invoice. Especially Israel and Middle East countries demands this bill. For exports to the following countries, the invoice must be certified by the consulate of the relevant country: Algeria, Morocco, Iran, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Tunisia, Lebanon. The reason for such an application is that the importing country prevents tax evasion by showing the cost of goods with low invoices or ensuring that the importer does not smuggle foreign currency out of his country by agreeing with the exporter. D. E-invoice. It is issued in Turkish for VAT refund or deduction by exporting company in Turkey. The exporter arranges to add it to the customs declaration during customs clearance procedures. In the e-invoice, the title and addresses of the exporter, the place of loading, the place of unloading, the origin of the goods, the gross weight, the invoice date and number, the correspondent and intermediary bank, the total amount and the total cost of the goods, as well as the method of delivery, place and currency shall be written. The second group is transport documents. These are the documents issued by the carrier showing that the product subject to foreign trade has been delivered to the carrier and loaded and contains the principles of sending it to the destination. Transport documents vary according to the type of transport. Carriage documents are issued in accordance with the carriage contract between the shipper and sender and the carrier, which determines the rights and obligations of both parties. A transport document is a contract of carriage between the shipper and the carrier, which undertakes to receive the goods from a certain place in the exporter's country and deliver them to the importer. While bill of lading is used in maritime transport, some transport documents are used in road, rail, and air transport. The main difference of this from the bill of lading is that they do not represent the purport of the goods and that they cannot be transferred by the endorsement because they are not valuable papers. Now we will detail these documents. It's a maritime transport document issued by the carrier or the shipping agent upon the request of the shipper and given to the shipper, promising that the goods will be loaded and transported in the specified manner and delivered to the buyer at the destination. The most important feature of this type of bill of lading valuable paper is its nature. In other words, ensures the transfer of ownership of goods by endorsement and delivery. It has three main functions. Indicates that the goods to be sent to the importer have been received by the carrier. It is a contract of carriage between the carrier and the shipper. It's a document representing the sent goods and expressing the right of the ownership over the goods. The bill of lading is drawn by the carrier at the request of the shipper and in as many copies as the shipper wishes. If the shipper requests, this is a must for the carrier. Bills of lading can be issued in more than one original copy. The aim is to enable the use of the other bill of lading in case of loss of one. The most common arrangement is 3 originals and 3 non-negotiable copies. Straight bill of lading. It is a type of bill of lading that cannot be transferred through turnover, but can only be transferred through the transfer of delivery of goods. In other words, they are documents containing only the name and the title of the importer, who is the buyer of the goods. The goods will be delivered only to this person. For this reason, they are generally not accepted by banks in practice. However, in practice, banks may request that these be issued in their own name in order to obtain their own security. Negotiable bill of lading. To whom this bill of lading is issued, the goods are transferred with its endorsement. Ordered bills of lading can be issued at the disposal of the importer, the importer's bank, or the shipper. If the bill of lading only contains the phrase "to order," it means that the bill of lading has been issued to the order of the shipper. When the bill of lading is issued to the order of the shipper, it is endorsed before it is presented to the bank. The endorsement is made on the reverse side of the bill of lading in the form of a full or wide endorsement. The full endorsement is made by stating to whom the bill of lading is transferred. In order bills of lading, it is sufficient for the bearer to present one of the original copies to the carrier to take over the goods from the carrier. If the holder is the bank endorses and delivers the bill of lading at the buyer's disposal. The buyer presents this bill of lading to the carrier, receives the delivery note, and clears the goods from customs. The bank endorses the bill of the lading arranged for its own order to the buyer. Bearer bill of lading. It creates the most risky transport document type in foreign trade. In this type of bill lading, in the importer section bearer, phrase is included. They are almost never used in foreign trade because they have a risky structure. The reason for this is that the person holding the bill of lading has the authority to request the delivery of the goods from the carrier company. Received for shipment bill of lading. It is the bill of lading issued when the carrier receives the cargo to be loaded on the vessel before the cargo subject to transportation is loaded on the vessel. During the Kırk-Ambar transportation periods, it was organized after the delivery of the cargo by the carrier, especially before the ship arrived. In today's container transportation, although the shippers prefer to receive such bills of lading from the carriers for commercial reasons, the carriers do not accept this positively and prefer to arrange an on-board bill of lading. Loading bill of lading. It is a type of bill of lading that is issued after the goods subject to transportation are loaded on the ship. That is, the goods are completely under the control of the carrier. In this type of bill of lading, the place and the date of issuance of the bill of lading and the date when the goods are loaded on the ship specified in the bill of lading, shipped on board date. Banks generally prefer this type of bill of lading in the follow-up transactions. Clean bill of lading. On bills of lading, usually immediately below or next to the shipper's load and count, shipped on board or clean on board phrases are also striking. These phrases indicate that the goods are loaded on the transport vehicle in a solid way in terms of their external appearance. These bills of lading are expressed as clean bills of lading. Dirty bill of lading. If a bill of lading contains a statement that the goods are damaged or similar, such as bill of lading, are called dirty bills of lading. Stale bill of lading. The bill of lading must be presented to the bank as soon as possible following the loading date. Otherwise, the bill of lading will not be received by the buyer a sufficient time before the arrival of the goods. The fact that the bill of lading has not yet been received by the buyer, even though the goods have arrived at the destination port, will result in delay cost, demurrage cost. Bills of lading that are not presented to the bank within 21 days from the date of the loading in the letter of credit are stale, is qualified as bill of lading and becomes the subject of reverse. In order for the stale bill of lading to be accepted by the bank, either this reserve must be removed by the buyer or the acceptance of the stale bill of the lading must be accepted in advance in the letter of credit. Other waybills are as follows. Road waybill, CMR. This document, also called the truck bill of lading, is a transportation document issued in accordance with the CMR, Convention Mercantile Rota, in international transportation by truck or truck. Within the scope of this agreement, a contract is signed between the sender, carrier, receiver regarding the responsibilities and obligations in case of damage, loss, and delay that may occur to the goods during the transportation of the goods between the member countries of the agreement. The carrier is responsible for the partial or complete loss of the goods and any damage that may occur from the moment they are received until they are delivered. This document is drawn up in triplicate on behalf of the sender and as a shipping receipt. The said 3 copies are signed and sealed by the authorized signatory of the sender and carrier company. The first copy is given to the sender. The second copy goes with the goods. The third copy remains with the transport company. Until the second company is delivered to the buyer, the sender can change the place of delivery and the company to be delivered. After the second copy is delivered to the buyer, the carrier must comply with the buyer's instructions. The most important feature of this document is the receipt indicating that the goods are packaged and in good condition with a certain number of brands and numbers, and the contract of carriage showing that the carriage will be transported to the destination with the instruction of the sender. However, it should not be forgetting that this document does not constitute valuable paper, therefore it cannot be endorsed. However, in practice, CMR contracts, which represent the goods and therefore considered as negotiable instruments, can be drawn up between the countries that are party to the CMR Convention. Airway bill. It's a receipt that it is not a valuable document. The ownership of the goods cannot be transferred with the endorsement and the delivery of this document, also called the airway bill. The goods are delivered to the person whose name is written on the bill. This transport document is issued in 12 copies, 3 of which are originals. The first of these copies belongs to the airline company and the second to the sender. The third copy is the sender's copy. Third copy of the airway transport document, original for shipper, has the right to change the conditions of carriage and even the buyer of the goods by presenting this copy to the transport agent before the goods are withdrawn by the buyer, as long as the seller has it. For this reason, this right granted to the sender creates a significant risk both for the receiver and the bank. In order to minimize this risk, the third copy of the airway bill of lading is requested to be submitted to the banks. Rail Consignment Note, CIM. It's a receipt issued by the Railway Administration in case the goods are transported by rail. Since it's not a negotiable document, it doesn't represent the purport of the goods, cannot be endorsed, and only indicates that the goods have been delivered to the Railway Administration for dispatch. The goods are given to the buyer if he proves his identity in his application to the transport agent. Forwarders receipts. This document, which is used in rail and mostly road transport, is a document issued by transport companies that transport goods on their own behalf and on behalf of others for a certain fee. Forwarding agents cannot issue bills of lading or bills of lading and cannot act on behalf of the international transport company, as they are not an international transport company or its agency. These receipts do not represent the ownership of the goods and they cannot be transferred by endorsement. FIATA documents. These documents are a kind of shipper's receipt. However, these documents, FIATA, International Federation Freight Forwarders Association, are the documents standardized by the International Federation Transport Agents Associations for the transport agents that are members of it and used only in road transport. TIR carnet operations ensure that road transport is safer and the carrier company performs the international trade with fewer transactions. International Organization Router Union, TIR carnet distributed by the IRU, dated in 1959, Transit International Router. Based on the TIR Convention, it is used during the transportation of goods by road between the member of countries of this convention. Import or export taxes and duties are not collected or guaranteed by the customs administrations along the way from the goods transported under the truck regime. The exporter has nothing to do. Necessary arrangements and supply is made by the shipping company. Each TIR carnet has a different reference number. It is divided into varieties as 4, 6, 14, and 20 leaves according to the number of pages it contains. Carnet page numbers are printed differently, taking into account the number of countries and or customs offices to be passed as departure, destination, and transit. For this, when opening the TIR carnet, the number of customs offices of departure, transit, and destination that will process the carnet must be taken into account. ATA Carnet. ATA, admission temporary. Carnets are international customs documents usually issued by chambers of commerce to allow temporary importation of goods without customs duties and fees. ATA carnets can be issued for the following categories of goods: trade samples, professional equipment and goods for presentation or use in trade fairs, shows, exhibitions, and etc. For more information, see the International Chamber of Commerce website. Post receipts. It is the postal receipt in return for the parcel of the goods to be sent to the buyer by mail by the postal administration to be shipped directly to the buyer or the buyer's bank. Shipment by mail can be made for goods in normal sizes that can be sent by mail and for which the price has been paid in advance or such shipment has been allowed in the letter of credit. The documents are in the form of receipts and do not deliver the ownership of the goods. The last group in documents used in foreign trade is other documents, movement documents. These are the documents that the importer has to submit when introducing the goods into the country to the imported or used to benefit from the certain discounts or exemptions. These are ATR or EUR1 and they are arranged according to the country of destination, not the country of importer. For example, if the importer's country is France and the product invoice will be sent to Israel, although the invoice is issued to France, the circulation documents to be used is EUR1, while ATR is used for exports to EU countries. EUR1 is issued for ECSC countries, EFTA countries, and the countries that have made FTA with Turkey. However, in order for these circulation documents to be issued, the exported goods must be of Turkish origin. A. TR Movement Certificate. In accordance with Turkey European Community Customs Union, upon the request of exporter or his legal representative authorized to sign the customs declaration, if the necessary conditions for the implementation of the provisions on free movement of industrial products, including processed agricultural products, are fulfilled by the customs administrations or the institutions authorized by these administrations, issued documents. For goods in free circulation in the customs of territory of the Turkey European Union, EU Customs Union, a separate certificate of origin is not required in order for the goods containing the ATR movement certificate issued by the competent authorities of the exporting country and visited by the customs administration to benefit from the preferential regime within the framework of the Turkey EU Customs Union. One of the white copies of the ATR movement certificate, which is filled in 5 copies, is kept by the chamber that carries out the approval processes. After the visa process is completed by the customs administration, the first green copy of the document is given to the exporter. One of the white copies remains within the customs administrations, and the other 2 copies are sent to the relevant chamber by the customs administration within the first business day following the actual export. EUR1 Movement Certificate. It's a circulation document issued to certify that the status of origin in order to benefit from the preferential regime in the trade of agricultural products between us and the European Union and in trade between us and the countries listed in Clause A of the Free Trade Agreements that we sign in parallel with the European Union. It's a document issued for exports to EFTA countries for iron and steel products, ECSC products with the European Union, for exports to countries with which Turkey has signed free trade agreements, and for exports of agricultural products to the European Union. The EUR1 movement certificate is filled in 5 copies. The first copy is in temper color and is the original copy. The other 4 copies are in white. The application procedures is the same as the ATR circulation certificate. EUR Med Movement Certificate. It is the proof of origin document used in the export of related products to the country's party to PAAMK, Pan-European Mediterranean Cumulation. PAAMK system. It's a cross-cumulation system that includes EU/EFTA/Turkey and some Mediterranean countries. Free trade agreement between all countries included in the PAAMK system. The same rules of origin must be applied in all of these agreements, except bilateral trade. For the system to work, STA, Free Trade Agreement, must be completed between at least 3 countries included in the PAAMK system. Packing list is a document issued to show the amount of goods contained in each container if the goods covered by the commercial invoice are placed in containers of various types and various weights. The packing list can be prepared by the seller or the sender together with the voice, or it can be prepared by the declarant. The packing list, which is one of the documents to be submitted to the customs administrations in the annex of the declaration, can also be requested by the insurance companies in case of damage. The packing list is prepared in a foreign language for the customs of the recipient country. Packing list is sent to the buyer. It's a document issued by the seller in order to show the weight of the goods that can be measured with a scale in detail. In other words, they are lists indicating the gross and net weight of the goods in each package. Certificate of origin. The document showing that a product originates in the country where it was produced or manufactured is called Certificate of Origin. Submission of Certificate of Origin is optional. However, in accordance with the provisions of international and bilateral agreements, in case it is desired to benefit from the reduced tariff based on the Certificate of Origin, it is obligatory to submit a Certificate of Origin stating that the goods originate in the country that is a party to the agreement, or that it should be counted as such due to the changes and transactions in that country. Certificates of origin are issued and approved by the authorities authorized in accordance with the legislation of each country. Form A. Generalized System of Preferences. It is the application of preferential customs tariffs by developed countries on imports from developing countries unilaterally, that is, without demanding corresponding concessions, in order to benefit from the concessional customs rates provided by the Generalized System of Preferences. The document issued in exports to countries that recognize is called Spatial Certificate of Origin, Form A. Form A Certificate of Origin is a document sought for exports to the said countries for the goods subject to the concessionary customs rates provided by Canada, New Zealand, Japan, the Russian Federation, Belarus, and Ukraine within the framework of the Generalized System of the Preferences, GTS. Uniform documents must be issued in English or French only. Russian for Russian Federation can be arranged. Except for addresses, Turkish expressions should not be included. It is issued in 4 copies, 1 original and 3 copies. Control document. To protect the image of our products in the world market, to increase their quality and competitiveness, to ensure that foreign buyers prefer our products in exports. In imports, some products, especially agricultural products, are subject to technical regulations and mandatory standard inspection in exports and imports in order to prevent unfair competition and misleading practices arising from low quality and to take measures to protect the consumer and increase quality. The control document is a mandatory document to be submitted to the Customs Administration for the export of goods subject to the standard. Phytosanitary certificate. It's a document given to the relevant person after the necessary inspections are made by the official authorities of the exporting country to prove that the products to be sold by the exporter of plant and herbal products are free of diseases, harmful substances, and drug residues and are suitable for consumption. The duration of this document is 10 days for fresh vegetables and fruits. If the export has not been made within this period, it's obligatory to recheck the agricultural products and to renew the certificate. Veterinary certificate. This document is the result of the controls made by the official veterinarian at the customs entrance exit gates in order to export and import live animals and animal products such as meat, milk, eggs, honey, leather, wool. Showing document. Inspection document. It's a document prepared by an inspection company that investigates whether the goods sent are suitable for the importer's order. In other words, It's the determination by the buyer and the seller through an inspection company that the delivery of a commodity subject to a trade to the buyer is carried out in accordance with the conditions such as the quantity, quality, packaging, labeling, loading, transportation, delivery times stipulated in the sales contract. It is called a certificate of surveillance. Insurance policy. The documents showing the goods are insured against the risk they may encounter during the period they are waiting at the customs. If they are included, are called insurance policies. In case the insurance policies are ordered, the rights within the scope of the insurance can be transferred to another person by endorsement. Therefore, insurance policies are issued to the bank orders. Goods are insured with 10% more than CIF/CIP value. Thank you very much for your attention.